Good girl. Thank you. All right. This is actually video number 2 for the day. My first time recording another one, but it's a good one to continue on from my last video on being the change you want to see. So I thought I'd keep it rolling. One thing that shifted me from needing to rely on my motivation and discipline to achieve my goals was finding my why. I never thought about it before. Why am I doing this? Why do I want these things? Why is what I started to ask. For a lot of things in my life, the motivation behind it was because I wanted to I wanted to do all these good things so that I would be seen as good, or so that I would feel good within myself. And so I would go to the gym consistently for a period of time and then I'd drop off. Or I'd commit to trying a new job or a new practice of some description, and my motivation would die and I'd find that I wasn't interested in it because my why for doing those things was actually rooted in a negative belief. The belief that I had to do things to be someone, right? So my why changed from that to being about myself. A cool concept I heard one day was, before we are born, imagine having a conversation with God, right? Just imagine for a second. And he says, I'm going to send you to earth and I'm going to give you a human. And all you have to do is to take care of that human to the best of your ability. And that sent off alarm bells in my mind when I heard that for the first time. And I thought, how am I not taking care of my human? I know it's such a weird concept to think about, but if we are given a human, and just like, we might have a son or we might have a nephew, how do we want to show up for them that best takes care of them? Well, I'd never looked at myself like that before. It's quite a profound concept. So I entertained the idea and I started looking at the ways that maybe I wasn't showing up for myself and taking care of myself in the right way. Although I was doing these good things like exercising, I was doing it because I didn't feel enough already. So I was trying to do so that I could be. And the be that I wanted was to feel love, to feel good enough. So I decided that my why that I take into all things is going to be to look after myself the best I can, whether that's physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, whatever side of my life that it is. My why was to look after myself, and not just with the physical things I do, but the intention that I took into it. I intended to do these things to look after myself. So if I didn't feel like I had enough energy because I don't know, maybe the day previous I had 2 workouts, and so this next day I'm feeling more tired than ever. And my intention is to look after myself, and so in my mind, I would think, maybe I need to rest right now so that I can best show up for what I need right now, because maybe another workout isn't actually going to get me to where I want to go, as well as taking some rest, active rest. It doesn't just have to be slobbing around doing nothing. So the intention that we bring into things is super important, is what I'm trying to get at. And this is just my why. The reason that I found that meant that it didn't matter the discipline, it didn't matter the motivation I had in that moment. My why was to look after myself. And based on how I showed up in that moment, I would look after myself accordingly. And sometimes, I needed a bit of a kick up the bum and say, get up and do some work. You've been lazy. And I would, I guess, try to be disciplined on myself in that way too, because if my own lack of motivation sometimes was getting in my own way of being able to best look after myself, then I would give that the appropriate attention too. So find your why. Find your why so that you don't have to rely on motivation. You don't have to rely on an external source as to why you're doing something, whether that's validation in the mirror or validation from another person. When all of that goes away, what's going to be left driving you towards your goals? And if all else fades away, what I promise you can rely on, because it has been my experience so far, is having your own why grounded in love for yourself, because that will never fade. If you want to develop and you want to take care of yourself along the way, then you want to love yourself, for lack of other other ways of referring to it. You want to love yourself, and that's beautiful. So find your why. I promise you, when you find that why and it resonates with you to your core, lights you on fire, it's your truth, then everything else will become a lot easier, because you're not just doing it for this and that. You're doing it for what you feel is right. And if you wake up tired one day, that feeling of what's right for you won't change. Maybe the human side of it will. You might not be there physically, like I just expressed I had been in the past, and I gave myself what I needed. I looked after myself the best I could in that moment. So see if you can find yourself a why you're doing the things you're doing that will never fade, that will never change with your discipline in that moment or your motivation in that moment. Because when you find that why, you'll find that the discipline comes and the motivation is always there, because that why really, really, truly is you and what you need. Because we're all different. We're all different, but in today we see these certain ways of, this is how you get from A to B or A to Z, whatever it is. And sure, it will work for lots of people, and that is great, but we are all different. And so I believe the best way that we can find what we need to get to where we want to be is to look inside. Because who understands you more than you do? So you truly know, if you're able to be honest with yourself, which I know that is hard to do sometimes, but you know what you need, and you best know how to give it to yourself. So if this resonates with you, amazing. If it doesn't, disregard it. Move on with what you want to do. And I hope today that you can be you, because who can be you but you? I love you. Thank you. See you on the next one.